What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Week 11 running back trade targets. Went over buy low, sell high wide receivers yesterday, so today is running back. For running back, we want stable touches, preferably a good amount of targets, and to see who's been lucky and unlucky with touchdowns. So, let's start things off on the buy low side with our boy Royce Freeman. He had been doing well, so he had graduated from this list after being here for about the first month or so. He had touchdowns in back-to-back weeks, but now he's back. Just 6 touches for 14 yards in week 9, and then the Broncos went on bye last week. This is a little bit of a riskier buy low than it used to be since Joe Flacco is out for the season. But realistically, he was dust anyways, and Brandon Allen isn't good by any means, but he's not that much of a downgrade. Freeman outsnapped Lindsay for the 6th consecutive game in that Week 9 win, so his role is much more locked in than people think. The Broncos have the 4th easiest remaining rush defense schedule in terms of rush defense efficiency of their opponent, including Kansas City and Detroit in the final 2 weeks, both of which are solid matchups for running backs. I'm not giving up a ton to get him, but I doubt his owner is asking for much of anything, given he just went on bye. He just had like 1 total point. I find it hard to believe they're going to ask for a lot. Devin Singletary also remains a buy low. He's played between 66 and 68% of snaps in 3 consecutive games, and he's been dominating the touches over Gore after he's returned from his injury. He's also got 17 targets over the last 3 weeks, which of course raises his floor and his ceiling. As I said with John Brown yesterday, the Bills' schedule is going to get a lot tougher than it was in the first half of the season. But that's much worse for Gore than it is Singletary. Gore could get up to 10, 12 touches in games that the Bills win. But in games where they're trailing for a good chunk of the game, it's going to be Singletary who's on the field. And he's the one that'll be racking up the receptions. And even though these games might be tougher to win, so their opponents are better teams overall, that doesn't mean that their opponents will be better against the run. In fact, their remaining schedule is actually the 10th easiest in terms of opponent rush defense efficiency. So don't be overly concerned with the mediocre performance he just had, because he's still averaging 6.4 yards per carry on the season, and he's going to remain heavily involved in the receiving game. I'd also be looking to buy low on Tevin Coleman. He's been held scoreless in back-to-back weeks now after his 4-touchdown explosion against the Panthers, but he still has one of the highest touchdown expectations of any running back in the league. The quote-unquote red zone back role in the 49ers offense has produced 24 green zone touches, which is touches inside the 10-yard line. That's compared to just 4 by Kittle and 3 by Breda. Coleman is the running back 15 in points per game, even counting the 2 games when he's been limited in snaps due to his injury. He's had 2 down games in a row, but his next 2 matchups against the Cardinals and Packers are great for the running back position. So I expect him to break out of his slump and have some really nice games. So I trade for him before that happens. James White is another running back I'd be buying low on. He finally scored another touchdown 2 weeks ago, because remember last week he was on his bye, but it also came in his lowest reception game on the season. It is possible that the addition of Mohamed Sanu will take away some of White's targets, given where Mohamed Sanu runs his routes and that they also overlap with Edelman. It's possible that a lot of Brady's short area throws are now going to go to Sanu and Edelman a little bit more than White. I don't think that's overly likely to bring him down to 1, 2, 3 receptions a game. I do still think he'll be in that 4 to 6 range with a solid red zone role, and with these targets being pretty high upside because a lot of them are schemed looks in screen passes. So there is a chance that his upside is slightly lower than it used to be, but I still do think that 2 reception performance is the outlier, and we will see more going forward. Plus, thinking back to that last game, the Patriots know that they're gonna see the Ravens in the playoffs. So they didn't want to give away too much about their game plan on offense or defense, and they wanted to boost Sanu's confidence and timing with Brady. That's why I think Sanu got his 14 targets. So I don't expect Sanu to get 14 targets every week. I think it was more a product of the situation surrounding that game. The Patriots' upcoming schedule is much more geared towards James White than Sony Michel, so this is a great chance to trade for a running back that's going to be heavily involved in the receiving game and is still due for more positive touchdown regression. That's it for buy low. Let's move on to sell high, and we'll start things off with Joe Mixon. Mixon just had 30 carries and 2 receptions, even in a 36-point loss to the Ravens. Ryan Finley wasn't dreadful, but he wasn't good either. And the Bengals are just a dumpster fire at this point. And I really don't think they're just going to run Mixon into the ground to end the season. He's very likely in their plans for the future, so it would just be silly to give him 30-plus touches in blowouts moving forward. Coming up, Mixon faces the Raiders and the Steelers, who've allowed 2 and 0 running backs to top 100 yards. So especially behind an offensive line that ranks 31st in run blocking, Mixon's just extremely unlikely to post good stat lines in the coming weeks. So this is very likely your last chance to move on from him. I'd still be trading away Todd Gurley. He now has just 1 reception over his last 3 weeks, and he's seen 22 touches over his last 2 games, which is not a lot. And he's playing at the 49ers championship weekend, so you won't even be able to play him in that matchup. Like, I'm not even kidding. In the championship weekend, you will very likely not be able to play Todd Gurley. So there's really just no reason for you to keep holding on to hope that he's going to get back to his old self. I've told you for months, it's not going to happen. So if you still have him for some reason, you've got to try and move on from him. Aaron Jones remains a big sell high for me. His production this season has been absolutely insane, but he's not even getting that much volume. They just keep getting stopped right before the goal line, so he's getting a ton of easy touchdowns. Jones has 10 touchdowns in his last 6 weeks, despite playing half the snaps and seeing more than 13 carries just once, and taking a massive hit in his receiving game work with the return of Adams. You can very likely get a high-end wide receiver 1 or a high-end running back 1 for Aaron Jones, even though his normal game moving forward is going to be 13 or 14 carries, 1 to 3 targets, and the Packers have the 5th most difficult remaining run defense schedule, including playing in Minnesota championship weekend. Also, one of these days, Aaron Rodgers is gonna throw a touchdown. He's only got 1 over his last 2 weeks, and that's extremely unlikely to continue moving forward. So, those are the top trade targets at the running back position for week 11. Remember, you can see both my wide receiver buy low model and the running back buy low model at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. Tomorrow I'll be going over the running back position again, talking about players you should be starting or sitting this week based on their matchup and their usage, so be on the lookout for that. But that's the end of this one. I hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? If you're new here, how about subscribing to the channel? But thanks for watching.